and welcome to Precisely Nowhere. It's been a great start to the year despite the state of the world. And I'm proud because this time last year I was on hiatus. I had burnt myself out. I was going through a lot of change, and there was just a lot going on in the world also. And I needed a break. It was a mix of burning myself out on the pod. Marco would probably say I was doing too much. And in hindsight, I was, because I can be an overachiever. And it almost feels like my default some days because I'm a first generation Mexican American. All I know is hard work. Learned that at a young age, and it applies to all aspects of my life. So sometimes I need to rein myself in, and I only learn after I've burnt myself out. But it's a new year, and I'm determined to stop burning myself out. So that's how we're approaching 2026. Here we are, it's March, and during the time that I was on hiatus, I was going through a big change in work. There was a reorg with layoffs. I'm so grateful that I wasn't impacted, but I think I compartmentalized everything that was happening as a coping mechanism. And now that I'm on the other side of it, I know that I was overwhelmed, and as much as I was grateful for the opportunity, I was overwhelmed by change and the uncertainty of the state of the world. And I wasn't being as intentional with where I was giving my energy because I think I was burned out. And that's what happens sometimes when we get to that point, or at least me personally. I think we go into autopilot mode. It's like we're in survival mode and we're not being as intentional. And I want to break that cycle. So I still wanted to talk about it and share a little bit more about this hiatus that I took, because I am proud to say that I have healthy boundaries in place now. These boundaries are allowing me to grow and expand as a person. And I've also started to rejoice in the word no, even though it's hard some days. It's what's true to me. And it's reminded me that we can't lose sight of doing what we need to do for ourselves to maintain our mental, physical, and authentic selves. And it's not selfish. So, we're going to be talking about the art of saying no and boundaries for your own expansion today. I am stoked about this episode. It was a fun one to pull together because it allowed me to tap into my lived experiences and times when I maybe wasn't at my best, but I've grown from it and learned from it. And that's what I like to take away, is the lessons learned. Your girl's going to Mexico, and I am tagging along with my boyfriend's family to go on their annual trip to visit his grandfather for his birthday. And he has lots of aunts and uncles and cousins down there. So I've met a couple of them more than once, but I'm excited to meet a lot of them again. The last time we were there was 2024, 2 years ago. The years have flown by. Very excited. I will be recapping some of my trip to Mexico next month. So stay tuned for some fun content. Today, I'm going to share practical tips for setting boundaries in relationships, work, and social life. I wanted to bucket it into these three buckets because I feel like they capture a lot of where we are setting boundaries in our day-to-day lives. And before we get into that, we're going to start general with reframing the no. Saying no can feel uncomfortable sometimes or feel like we're choosing conflict. That's my hot take, because I know I can be conflict avoidant sometimes, but it doesn't have to be that deep. Sometimes we need to be reminded of this and remember that we can pivot how we approach no. Instead of it being something we dread, we can reframe the no and create an art form to saying no. That's the fun way that I like to approach it, because I I just like to have fun with some things and no shame in my game here. So, here are some gentle reminders to help us feel more comfortable with saying no. Number one, saying no isn't a rejection, it's a yes to yourself. Snaps to that. It's not a rejection. You're saying yes to yourself, yes to the quiet night you need to have at home because you have been out and about throughout the week. That's not a no, it's a yes to yourself. Number two, a yes to rest, a yes to clarity, a yes to not overextending. Even though you're saying no, you're saying yes to other things. So don't lose sight of that. And I love this reminder about a yes to not overextending because I think a lot of us fall in the trap of wanting to be everywhere all at once. And we end up overextending ourselves. I've done that a lot. I'm trying to work on it because it leads to burnout. And sometimes it's great. Like, there are people that say yes and they have all the energies in the world. So it's really about meeting ourselves where we're at. It's not a one all be all that's going to work for everyone. Just gentle reminders if you do find it challenging to say no sometimes. Number three, boundaries aren't walls, they're how you protect your energy. Saying no because you are sticking to a boundary that you may have does not mean that you are putting up a wall. It just might be a no because you need to protect your energy and reinforce that boundary. And that's perfectly normal. And anyone who is making you feel like it's not, maybe someone who doesn't respect your boundaries. Check in with yourself, and I hope this helps you on your journey because I know it can be hard to say no. And it's all about reframing the no, the art of saying no. A lot of the times it's how we say something, not what we're saying. I know I've been there because I can have a harsh delivery. And I know depending on who you ask, between my family and friends, they may have many, many receipts on it's not what I said, it's how I said it. So I say that all in love. I have embraced the word no. I think therapy has really helped me embrace that word. And now I don't look at it as a negative thing. And I try to always reframe it to what I'm saying yes to and what boundaries I might be breaking because I want to say yes, but it's really not how I feel. It's just me giving into the peer pressure. So it's all baby steps. Boundaries are so important when building a strong foundation in life. As we grow and evolve, I've found that they are necessary to keep building a life that you love. So, in relationships, communicate what you need clearly and early. Say what you can offer, not just what you can't. It is a pet peeve of mine when people will mention a problem, but they can't think of a solution. It's like, okay, got it, love it, thank you, but can we take it the next step further? I digress. Try, I care about you and I need more space right now to show up, period. Communicate what you need and set those boundaries early so that people can meet you where you're at. And if you're finding it hard for people to meet you where you're at, that's a perfect time to do a check in with yourself, see if you're being reasonable with your boundaries. And if you are, then to check in with your friends, your family, your significant other, person you're dating. And sometimes we're not compatible. Sometimes people have boundaries and they can't respect our boundaries. And that's when we say, on to the next. So don't be afraid to hold true to your boundaries and keep an open mind because we all have different boundaries. Healthy relationships can handle honest conversations, even the slightly uncomfortable ones, period. I'm a true believer in this, and this is not something that I'm just preaching. I practice this as well, and sometimes it's like a cringe, but we are better off when we try to meet ourselves where we're at, meet other people where they're at, and practice healthy boundaries. And I think our relationships will go really far if we set those clearly and early and communicate what we need. Not everyone's our cup of tea. And it's better to know that sometimes before you're like really in it at a job, someone you're dating, in a friendship. I don't think it's a wild idea to like kind of put your cards on the table. And it's going to be different in every scenario. So that brings us to work. Separate personal from professional. Can't preach this enough. And it's something that I think can be learned because earlier on in my career, there were times when I have taken things personally and didn't separate the personal from professional. And I know now that I'm someone that likes to separate the two because let's be real, like I come to this job, I provide a service, and then I leave and I go about my life. You don't owe access to your entire self at work. In an ideal world, would we all be able to show up as our authentic selves to work? Hell yeah. And that is something I'm working on as we speak, is to bring my authentic self to work. But we don't owe access to our entire self at work. And it's important to remember that because that can be a great way for us to establish boundaries, set realistic availability, and actually honor it. This is something that I did not do for many years in my career. And sometimes it paid off because it helped me learn more. I was exposed to more. But there were a lot of times when I burnt myself out and I didn't honor my availability. And we're not doing that anymore. So I encourage us all to set realistic availability, honor it. I know that's easier said than done, and it's going to vary in what you do for work, but it's important to still have those boundaries there. And then you decide when you are willing to be flexible versus not having the boundaries at all and expecting your employer to give more of a shit of your personal life and those boundaries than you do. I'll circle back during work hours is a full sentence. And it's something that I am trying to practice more because there are times when I might circle back and it's like after work hours, and I'm trying to stop myself from doing that. I love that Teams has a function now where you can schedule a message. So I've done that. I've scheduled messages so that they are sent in the morning, maybe before I'm online, but the other person's online because I work on West Coast hours and work with a lot of people in East Coast and Central Time, all the time zones. You don't owe people your time outside of the workday. Boundaries at work protect your creativity and prevent burnout, not ambition. I know this from firsthand experience that boundaries at work really do protect your creativity. When I first started the pod, I had this epiphany, and I have talked about this in the past. This epiphany that I have all this energy and creative ideas, but I was giving all of my energy to my 9 to 5 that I wasn't allowing myself to even have the space and the time outside of it because I had other extracurriculars to really be creative, tap into my creativity, and without it leading to more burnout. And in hindsight, that wasn't ambition. We can't put all of our eggs in one basket. That's just my hot take. It's so important that we have boundaries at work. Please remember that boundaries at work protect your creativity and they prevent burnout. It's not ambitious to not have work boundaries. It's actually a bit naive. I'm not trying to be judgy. I'm just keeping it real here. And we need to have more to live for than our jobs. Let's be real. That is something that other countries have right, which is they don't live to work, they work to live and support their lifestyles. And capitalism has gotten away from us, and I don't want to go on a rant. So I'm going to leave you with that. Social life, not every invite deserves your energy, and that's okay. Period. It's okay to say no. And some things are not your jam, and that's okay. Choose plans that feel nourishing, not obligatory. I love the word nourishing because when I think about it, it makes me think about like eating fruit or eating something that's really like giving back to my body. I guess that's how I feel when I eat fruit. It's like nourishing my body or, putting something good in our body that we know is going to benefit us. And I love this idea of choosing plans that feel nourishing, not obligatory. We have enough shit we have to do in our adult lives that is obligatory. So don't be afraid to say no to plans that don't feel nourishing. And take this with a grain of salt because this is going to depend on what the plan is. If it's something for your significant other, and maybe think twice on it and be willing to keep an open mind because not all moments in our life are going to feel nourishing. So this one can be a slippery slope. It's okay to say, I'm staying tonight without over explaining. Yours truly over here is an over explainer at times. I don't know why I feel like I have to give people this like novel of why I can't make something. I think it's because I know I want to be there, but I just may not be able to. So it's okay to say I'm staying in tonight or I can't make it without over explaining. Sometimes people don't need the over explanation. So let's be intentional with our interactions and how we communicate with others. I am telling that to myself as I say it aloud. I'm not just preaching to the choir over here, or I hope not. Last but not least, rest is a plan. Alone time counts. I love me some alone time. And we recently got a cushy couch in our second bedroom that is also like an office slash library. And it has been so awesome. I've been recording from it and spending some time on it during the workday in the afternoon. It folds out to a full size bed. So it's what we intend to use when we have guests over. We're trying to invest in things that we need now and in the future without being excessive. And it is such a cute couch. It has allowed me to have some alone time because we have our living room and we have our bedroom, but it's nice to be able to be in another space that gives me inspiration. And I know that my boyfriend has also been enjoying alone time in this room and in the other room sometimes. So, we can be in the same space but have our alone time. I think it's important that we are all okay being alone and that we all know that rest is a plan and it's absolutely necessary sometimes to maintain our social life. I'm an introverted extrovert, so I have my introverted tendencies and my extroverted tendencies, but I don't get my energy from being around people. I need time to recharge, like be in my own space. And that is why saying no has been key to me feeling like I'm having more days where I'm thriving instead of surviving. And that's what I mean by meet yourself where you're at. Like it starts with knowing what we need to keep our cup full and tailoring the no's to balance that out. And I hope these tips help. Gentle reminders as you're on your own expansion journey. Remember, you're allowed to change your boundaries as your life changes. I think it's inevitable that that happens. For example, now that I'm in a relationship and I live with my partner, my boundaries are slightly different with my family and with his family than they were when I was single. Our life has changed, and it's normal that our boundaries change with it at times. So embrace that. And I think it'll help you as you navigate this expansion journey and keep growing into your ideal self. The second gentle reminder is what worked last season doesn't have to work now. There's that saying, some people come into your life for a season and a reason, And it's the same thing with boundaries and life. Sometimes there is a routine that works for a season. For example, my boyfriend's in school, so our routine changes from semester to semester because his schedule changes. And so what worked last year when we did our couples check-ins on Fridays no longer works for us, and now we do it on Sundays because I need a break on Fridays, he needs a break on Fridays, and it's okay to pivot. Another example, what worked burning myself out last year doesn't work now for me. I can't just bounce back. I need to find that joy in every day and harmony in life so that I can stay my authentic self and keep creating. And that brings me joy. So, what worked last year, last season, does not work now. And we're pivoting. And that is the beauty of growing and expanding. And I wish you all the best as you are on your journey. I know we're talking a lot about setting boundaries in relationships, work, and social life. It's never too late to start being more intentional with who and how you spend your energy. All of this is said in love. It's not to judge those that are burning themselves out and don't have boundaries. None of that. These are habits for your daily life that will help you take steps towards making your dreams a reality. That's all we want here. I feel like I've been making my dreams a reality since I launched the pod, and I want to pay it forward to others and share my lived experiences so that you can see my life's not perfect. I'm still figuring it out. There are lots of messy days, and there is a lot to be learned because when we're pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone, we're staying open minded to what the universe has in store for us, and we are willing to be intentional and do the work, sky's the limit, baby. I came across a LinkedIn article by Kathleen Griffith that hit me hard in the best way. It was a reminder that I needed to hear, and I thought that it fit perfectly with today's episode, so I will be recapping it. The article is titled Walking the Site Before You Add Another Floor. I felt like it was a perfect fit with today's episode because we're talking about gentle reminders for how we can set boundaries, embrace the art of saying no any time of the year, not just when it's a new year. Because it is the new year and there is a lot of talk about resolutions and what we want to accomplish this year, it's perfect timing. A quote that stands out to me is, I was building floors on a foundation that was already cracking. I'm sure we have all been there in our life where we are building on a cracked foundation that maybe we know is cracked, but we are intentionally avoiding it, or that we don't know is cracked because we are just caught up in the rat race of life that we aren't really present. For those unfamiliar with Kathleen Griffith, she is an entrepreneur, best-selling author, TV producer and host, and keynote speaker. I had the pleasure of interacting with her at Shine Away, Reese Witherspoon's media company Hello Sunshine puts on every year in October. I know I've mentioned this in the past, so I'm not going to get too into it, but it's amazing and she was awesome. Today we're sharing Kathleen Griffith's wisdom and advice to check the foundation first. The core message of the article is walking the site before you add another floor. And that is a metaphor for the foundation that we have in life and the floors that we build as we grow and we expand and we take on new responsibilities or new roles like being a mother or being a Dia or being a podcast host. And I resonate with Kathleen's personal reflections on building on cracked foundations, saying yes from fear, and chasing busy instead of intention. This article also reminds me of the importance of not forcing growth on shaky ground, and that it takes intention, vision, and action to start building a foundation. It's not selfish to work on our foundation, it's self care. And what I mean by forcing growth on shaky ground is, I've been there where I was dating someone and things were like a little rocky, but I was still pushing forward. The ground was shaky and your girl was trying to build more floors. And in order to build a strong foundation, we need to have intention, vision, and action. And vision at a minimum to see if the ground is shaky and what we need to do about it. It's not selfish to look under the hood and build a foundation that is strong from the get go. It's self care. The idea of integrating life and work under one blueprint is something that Kathleen talked about and I'm striving towards and have been working on through therapy and by living with more intention. What I do know is that it could benefit relationships with others and ourselves to integrate life and work under one blueprint instead of looking at them like two separate entities. Because, in the grand scheme of how we give our energy and how we spend our time, life and work are huge components of our day to day. So, I am starting to look at everything as a whole versus this is how, because that is what is aligned with me being my authentic self. One blueprint, not two blueprints. Kathleen shares learnings from her honest reflections about her lived experiences. I'm going to quote her because I resonate with these words and wanted to share them with you and keep them top of mind as I continue to grow and experience life. In my own career, the seasons that nearly broke me didn't come from lack of opportunity. They came from when I had an insatiable appetite for more, more, more. Nothing was ever enough. I'd keep building on top of a foundation that was already hairline fractured, saying yes from fear, not conviction, chasing busy instead of impact, treating my life and my business like they were two separate projects. Whew. Honest, true, and based off lived experiences. I love these words and have been there myself. And I think that's why I resonate so hard with them. And had a rude awakening about this idea of treating our life and business like they were two separate projects, because I think a lot of us do that. I've been there and I'm trying to work on that and be more intentional with the idea that my life is one blueprint and there are a lot of aspects that make up that blueprint, but we're not working off multiple blueprints. Ain't nobody got the time for that. It's like we want to work smarter, not harder. And managing two blueprints is harder than managing one, in my opinion. So I love this reflection. The next reflection from Kathleen. Build was my attempt to put language and structure around a different way where mindset and skill set, life and work are actually integrated. One blueprint, not two competing ones. Period. As we grow and experience life, we are faced with challenges, opportunities, and lots of learnings. And that is one of the things I appreciated so much from this article is that Kathleen shared her raw, honest reflections and all in the spirit of paying it forward to others that are on their own journey. And I thank you, Kathleen. You are amazing. And maybe one day Kathleen will be on the pod. At the end of our article, Kathleen leaves us with a question that I love and a reminder. She says, so before you ask, what do I want to achieve in 2026? It might be worth asking, what kind of foundation am I willing to stand on? This gave me chills because it reminded me the importance of building a strong foundation. She then says, because once you start adding floors, it gets a lot harder to go back and fix it. I mean, can you imagine just taking a house, for example? You need to redo the floors, but you move in and you put all the furniture on top of the floors. It's like maybe then redoing the floors is going to be a little bit more complicated because you've put shit on top of it. And that's just a metaphor to help us all wrap our heads around this idea that once you start adding floors to your foundation, it can get a lot harder to go back and fix the things that have cracks on them. It's important to be intentional as we are on this journey. So go out there, do a self check in, check on your foundation, bring some intention, vision, and action to start building a strong foundation. It's not selfish, it's self care. I encourage you to ask yourself that question that Kathleen asked. What kind of foundation am I willing to stand on? I've asked myself the question, and the answer is a strong foundation that honors humanity and my authentic self. Because if I'm staying true to myself, I'll hopefully have a foundation that can withstand the times. It sounds heavy, but this is where we are at. And wouldn't it be nice if we came together to support each other more, fight fascism? It is going to take all of us coming together to fight for the greater good. And thank you all for listening. Happy Women's History Month. Celebrate the women in your life. Appreciate them. We do so much in this world, and we are fighting for our basic human rights. Not just this month, but every day of the year. Go build those foundations, and I love you all. Thank you for listening. Here's to the art of saying no, saying yes to yourself, and building strong foundations that we can build a beautiful life on. Stay safe and talk soon.
Music done by Marco. You can find him at midnight, MIDNITE_mind80 on Instagram.